Hi everyone. For a change, this is not a comical skit or a point of view video. I suppose it's a point of view from my point of view, but point of view as in, you know, complaining or showing something that to me is absurd or something, as I'm walking along the street, whether it's a situation that's an object or a potential incident or accident or people's behavior. This is essentially, yeah, I guess I could title it my coming out story. Um, for those who are very keen observationalists, people who have keen, observation skills, would have concluded correctly. If you're wondering at all, I know these days it shouldn't matter in any respect. But if you're wondering of my sexual identity, yes, I identify as a gay person. So same sex attracted, man to man, male to male. Yeah. Um, just from a smattering of some of my videos where I mean, not every single band, but if it's a boy band, I'm attracted to that. It's very clever marketing, such as One Direction and the Vamps. I'm probably not their target audience in terms of their marketing machine, the people behind that, but yeah. Um, and yeah, I do have a playlist that I've titled LGBTI plus Q, LGBTIA plus Q plus. Yeah, anyway, I have. So yeah, for example, I showed amongst that playlist is a reference to a short animation video. I'll have to look that up, or the title escapes me. But it's an animation where it depicts two high school boys, and they fall in love with each other. Initially, one is more endured, sort of more kind of head over heels of the other boy, but then the other boy eventually reveals that he has the same feeling. So yeah, so that's just some of the content examples in that playlist. Kind of not meaning to state the obvious. So I know this could be a very long video, but I'm going to keep it as short and sweet as I can. If you relate to this or you want to forward it to someone who may be going through or will go through the same feelings or has gone through the same feelings, or if they find it at all comforting to know someone like-minded out there like themselves. I'm not a proviso is I'm not going to go into too much granular detail when it comes to my parents, just to respect their privacy. Clearly I'm not going to name their names or anything like that, or I might just broadly touch on some of their thoughts here and there and maybe the fallout of me coming out. But beyond that, I'm not going to get them involved. I know they are involved, they're my parents, but I know I appreciate. I'm jumping around here. I'm kind of telling the end before the beginning. That again, for privacy, not going to hint at them at all. But I know at least one friend who I'm still friends with. That their parents not. I don't know if they've changed since the last time I heard this story or knew of it, but their coming out story was not very pleasant, in terms of their parents' reaction. So, mine may seem a bit more lukewarm. Is that the word? Anyway, so to put into context, I was born in 1970. So, just to put the context into the time I was born, this is significant as the story unfolds. So, when the news headlines before the internet, before TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I did hear about. Oh, sorry, just to say, I was a late bloomer overall. It's going to sound like an excuse, but my mental and emotional development was behind my peers. So, for example, it's not touching on any particular gay topics as yet. I mean, in this case, when I was in primary school, I remember, say, grades 5 and 6, when I could overhear, or I was told jokes that had sexual innuendo or sexual content, and my classmates were telling jokes about that subject. Kind of just sort of went over my head. I mean, I understand the machinations of the birds and the bees, and all that, but making things into a joke like that and conveying it to others and receiving the meaning didn't really quite register with me. I wasn't like asking them, can you explain that again? But I definitely wasn't the one to perpetuate that. Yeah, I listened to what they had to say, and if I got it, I did. If I didn't, I might have just, put my mask on and just kind of laughed along as well, but maybe later thought I don't really get it. Yeah. Also at the time, kids can be tempted at any age. I would hope they're not tempted like at 5 or 6, but I'm just hinting at this is going a little bit off tangent, but um, not even temptation, just curiosity to smoke a cigarette or to have alcohol or anything where it's normally for someone older. Again, there might have been stories I heard. I don't really remember on this actual point much, really, but just broadly speaking, you would know of yourself. You may relate where you had classmates in primary school and or high school that were either boasting or trying to get you to try a cigarette or your first drink of underage when you're underage. Yeah. So even the possibility of access to alcohol, whether it be through an uncle or an older friend or friend's friend, when you go to a party and they say, "Hey, yeah, try this." Yeah, it wasn't me. I'm thankful also that I didn't feel the peer pressure. Um, I was, yeah, I'd say this is just to me, a label for myself. I was socially awkward. I wasn't the sort of person to, what are you doing on Saturday? I'm going to a party. What are you doing? Whether it be more likely in high school, more so than primary school. Um, I didn't really feel. I didn't feel that it was some sort of stigma that I didn't go out on a Friday or Saturday night, like to a discotheque or a disco or police disco, blue police disco, what they call it in Victoria, a blue disco, yeah, run by the police, to try to keep the police relationship and teenagers out there amicable. Yeah. I also remembered I declined to go to my year 12 formal. I guess in America you'd call it a homecoming dance, I guess. Is that what it's called? Yeah, like homecoming queen and king. I just wasn't interested. I just didn't feel like I wanted to be social. I just felt the pressure to have that sort of public face and like obviously to find a date to go to. And I also went to a private boys' high school, so kudos to my classmates at the time to be able to find dates, whether it was just for the night, like people maybe were just a little bit more than friends, but they didn't have ongoing relationships and they managed to find dates, I would imagine at fellow girls' high schools. Maybe that were girls only high schools or not. Anyway, I didn't go to that. I assume my parents might have been aware of the event, of the year 12 formal. I'm talking about, the year 12, like the ball, end of year ball. Or maybe it was middle of the year. Anyway, whenever it was held, I didn't go. So anyway, so in the 80s, this is accentuated by my favourite band, the Pet Shop Boys. They have the song Being Boring, which talks about their loss of friends due to the AIDS epidemic. I remember clearly during that period the commercials on television. This is quite a contentious issue, I would think, just because for some people it's meant to be shocking, but broadly speaking, some people thought it just went too far. So those that remember it, I think it was an Australian-wide campaign to promote the education of how serious, HIV and AIDS were. It was the image of the Grim Reaper in a stereotypical form. So a figure that was black and hooded and had the, what's it called, a spade? Is it no, it's not a spade. You know what I mean? That staff with the curved blade. And images of whether you're a child or a grandparent's age or someone in their mature years, maybe 60s, 70s or older, and they were lined up like bowling pins on a huge, scale. And naturally, the Grim Reaper was rolling the ball and knocking down everybody. The bowling ball representing the disease, the AIDS and HIV disease. So it's basically saying that HIV/AIDS doesn't discriminate and it can knock anyone down at any age or any background, any age group. So yeah, it's quite shocking. This is again prior to the internet, and maybe we were sorry, maybe well, if I wasn't as desensitized. I mean, I don't remember feeling shocked by it, nor that I did question it. Like other kids might have gone, "Oh, mum and dad, what was that about?" Or can you explain, or can we talk about that further? It came on during obviously times when they wanted a greater audience, so prime time. So you might be watching a sitcom or your favorite show, and then, or during the news, and then in between you'd see this anti-AIDS HIV campaign. So during the 80s, I would have been, obviously being born in 1970, I would have been in the 80s, in my, sorry, my arithmetic's really bad. Yes, my teen years, of course. So by 1980, I was 10 years old. And then by 1990, I would have been 20 years old. Yeah, so my formative years, becoming an adult. What was that beeping noise that's coming from this phone? Anyway, I thought I heard a kind of like a notification sound. Maybe I'm just hearing things. So yeah, as a teenager, I mean, what's typical? People say, no, you weren't different. You're just an individual. But at times I did feel asexual. There was a period where I don't think I was attracted to the male gender or the female gender or any gender, and I didn't feel that was a problem. But then I remember being influenced by, if it's still running, I don't really listen to the radio much anymore, but Fox FM in Melbourne, one of the FM stations, ran like I think it did coincide with Valentine's Day. It set you up like like a Valentine's Day ball hosted by Fox FM, and it would randomly, but you'd put in your details and you'd be matched with a date. So I do remember, that was really, really awkward. This would have been in my 20s. I suppose I did have some feelings towards being attracted to the female gender, so I might have even maybe hired a suit. I don't know if you really had to dress like that, but I think it was held somewhere in the city, maybe. So I do remember walking along with a bouquet of flowers and the date that I was matched with. Yeah, just being very polite, but very kind of like, what do you call it? Very abrupt, kind of like just short and sweet. Where, well, she said it. She was kind of saying in a roundabout way, but looking back, it's clearly that she was just saying thanks, but no thanks. So she saw me with the bouquet of flowers. She would have, I don't know, had my name in the letter she got, said you are matched with someone called Ivan, and she was with a girlfriend of hers. Is a friend who was also a girl. And I remember she just said something along the lines, when she saw me, she didn't even take the flowers. She just said, "Oh, my friend and I are just going to go, I don't know, get a drink. We're just going to do other things," or something. Just an excuse, basically saying, "I don't want to be your date." So I guess she didn't have the nerve to say that to me. So I don't know what I did with the bouquet of flowers. Did I just throw them in the nearest trash can or gave them to someone else? I don't even know if I attended the ball. Something would have been set up. We would have been all walking in kind of unison to a venue or something. It's all, I clearly probably blocked this out because it's not a very pleasant memory. So yeah, I mean, just because of that, it doesn't mean that I was like, oh well, I'm never going to get, I'm never. If I thought I was identifying as heterosexual, I didn't just give up on that and say, well, maybe I'll try being gay, and then maybe that'll work. But no. Anyway, so that was not a very pleasant experience. And then it wasn't until around 2000 or 2001. So by this stage, in the year 2000, I would have turned 30, and in 2001, 31. So quite late for me. No, it's subjective. It's a thing. So for some people, maybe they haven't come to terms with their sexualities until they were in their 50s. But for me, it was, in my early 30s. So I read in a one of those street press papers that you can get for free, like at cafes. This was aimed at the LGBTIQ+ community, so it was either called Beat Magazine or something along those lines. And I read, a listing that said, You can attend Momentum. Oh, it said like guys, or not, yeah, not guys. I don't think it was. I guess it was kind of focused on for male gender. Along the banner said along the lines of, maybe not so much detail, but it would have explained what Momentum's about at least. So Momentum was a free session or sessions you could attend to if you were trying to work out your sexual identity. It was held at what's called the VAC, that's short for the Victorian AIDS Council. And every time I recount the story to someone new, or even maybe a friend just reminiscing, it's not just about AIDS. Yes, it does have AIDS in the title or the name of the organisation, Victorian AIDS Council, but that's not all they do. That's just one of the services they provide, either AIDS awareness and education and references or resources for you if you're needing that. But amongst the services provided was a course called Momentum, and that was aimed at male gender is anywhere 18 or above, and if you were questioning or trying to work out your sexual identity, you could attend these sessions and be made aware, be educated, and be with like-minded people, maybe obviously for the first time for me, like myself. So I decided to attend that. I hadn't told my parents. They didn't know, well, whether they thought. Maybe they do say that women have an intuition. My mother never. Well, actually, I'll get to that. Yeah, so I would have got some documentation mailed to me. This is in the snail mail days, posted to my home address with the VAC logo stamped, one corner of the envelope. Anyway, so I decided to attend because I was feeling confused. This is again already as I'm already 30 or 31. So by that stage, I'm thinking I'm confused. I want to know more. I want to know more about myself and my true identity. And not feel perhaps guilty of some feelings I might have had already leading up to that point. So I attended a few sessions, and along the way, I learned that through the facilitators, the ones that were paid, we were volunteer facilitators. I mean, you could become sorry, I'm jumping around. You could become a facilitator to run or to be co-hosting a Momentum course yourself. So I was attending as a participant at a Momentum course, but we also had the opportunity to be voluntary facilitators at another Momentum course, maybe during the week or another day of the week. And the people running the VAC did offer that to everyone and said, although you are all, partaking in this course or this training or this service as a participant, you are welcome at any time to also put your hand up if you would like to co-host a Momentum course. And I did put up my hand. I thought, yeah, why not? And they said, yes, you'd be great for that. But I did say, just the way I just had self-doubt and being very self-critical of myself in any situation, not just in that situation. I said to them, isn't this a conflict of interest that one day of the week I'll be coming in, or have been coming in as a participant for the Momentum course, and now I'm going to be trained up to facilitate a Momentum course? So it just felt like I was still working myself out, but yet I was going to be a spokesperson or a facilitator in educating and making other people aware, other guys. So I thought, it's like, this is probably a poor example, but it's like if you were a medical intern and you haven't got a doctor's license yet, or whatever you need to become a practicing doctor, and you were asked to make diagnosis, actually, in real cases, not just in the universities or like in a lab or a practice session. So I felt ill-equipped, really. I didn't want to obviously be inadequate for new participants when they look at me and think, yep, this guy knows what he's talking about, but yet I'm still kind of figuring myself out. Anyway, they did allow it and I tried it. So yeah, it was quite, like in terms of like personal development and growth, it was very eye-opening. So I still chose not to tell my parents about what I was doing at the VSC or what the VSC was about. I did have a closer relationship with my mother than my father, and she was just a natural curiosity. It wasn't like, hey, let me see what's that you got in the mail, what's the VAC? I did open up the mail, well, maybe not. I mean, we had confidential information like other participants' addresses, I wouldn't show that. I didn't show that, but it was just a general newsletter or telling me what's the next session coming up, whether I was still a participant or a facilitator. And I remember a few key memories and conversations with my mother. One in a particular order. One, and it's probably going to be jumping around from how your memory works. She did ask, quite directly. I mean, conversationally, not like scarily, but she did ask me, "Do you have to be gay? Is there a prerequisite to be gay to volunteer at the VAC?" And I had that fight or flight response. I was in denial, and I said, "Your or somebody's sexual identity is not a prerequisite for you." So sorry, I said something along the lines of, "It doesn't matter what your sexuality is to volunteer at the VAC." Yeah, basically saying it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. I don't know if I never thought to ask. I never thought to ask, do you? I mean, it could be. Yeah, I mean, I never asked the people at the VAC, would you allow someone who identifies themselves as a heterosexual person to volunteer for these momentum sessions? I probably think not, only because yes, they might know other people who are gay, but whether I think they would prefer the participants and the facilitators to identify themselves as gay to be participating in a course aimed at gay people. Anyway, but I never asked otherwise, so I didn't feel like I was completely lying to my mother, but definitely it probably wasn't the answer she was expecting. She was probably expecting yes or no. And as I continued to volunteer at the VC, it wasn't a long tenure. I'd say it was even under a year or maybe 9 months after I felt obviously the burden lifted and from my shoulders and realizing there's nothing wrong with me, and any feelings that I had, not being illegal or anything like that, but any feelings, emotions I had in that realm were normal. So I kind of felt at peace, probably with myself, that I hadn't felt in many years leading up to that point. And for some, it's naturally they would come out to their parents, but I still chose not to. But another conversation, I remember one coming from me and one coming from my mum. Another one from my mother around that time, or after I'd already finished at the VAC, or finished. I felt like I didn't want to. I got everything that I needed to from the VAC, so I was no longer a participant or a facilitator for the momentum courses. She, again, this is, well, I think the internet would have started to take shape or, become more out there. This is, 2000 and 2001 onwards. Anyway, she said she saw either in a newspaper or a television ad about, I don't know, a very limited offer, like fly to Queensland. This is a state in Australia, for those who don't know. Fly to Queensland and your friend or partner can come with you for $1 extra or something like that. And I remember she brought that up. I wasn't aware of this offer, and she said, "Oh, why don't you take your friend Frank?" Frank doesn't mind if I mention his name in my videos. So he was also a fellow participant at the Momentum courses. I don't know if he became a facilitator or not. Maybe he just stuck to being a participant. That's fine. Yes, I was very much enamored with him pretty much the first time I saw him, or when we started one of the activities that the paid staff there did. I'm just differentiating because we were not paid. They were just coming there as participants. You didn't have to pay for these courses. You can just attend, and there was no fee. And there was no. You were volunteers when you were if you chose to be a facilitator. There was no wages or payment there either. Anyway, so as part of the activities during the Momentum course, let's call them a teacher, just for simplicity's sake, teacher would divide us into, or please divide yourselves into 4 groups or something like that. And he was kind of hinting at it may be geographic, and maybe better or easier if you did yourself geographically, because if you did need to, he set a project for us, and if you did to meet up or choose to meet up before you came back to VAC, if you lived in the northern suburbs with other people, or the eastern suburbs, or the southern suburbs, or the northern suburbs, then it would be much easier, rather than having someone in your group that lived in the northern suburbs of Melbourne and everyone else was in the southern suburbs of Melbourne. It would just be, distances to meet up. This is yeah, I don't think Zoom was around. Anyway, it just, other than being on the phone and having a conference call. Anyway, so despite Frank at the time living in the western suburbs and I was in the eastern suburbs, I wanted us to be part of a group, whatever that meant. Like, and other people who lived more in the east or in the west, it didn't matter. All I knew was I wanted to work with Frank. And I think for a lot of times he just tolerated my friendship. I just became completely obsessed with him. I wanted to talk to him all the time. It's just really something out of a sitcom or a movie where, I might have seen a character be completely sort of, I wouldn't say in love, just more just infatuation. I just enjoyed his company and I wanted, I could listen to him read the telephone directory or a dictionary. I just wanted to be in his presence and to be in his company all the time. Not in a relationship, just at this point, my mind was just getting settled into, I guess, the gay lifestyle community. And I just wanted to be his friend and just have his attention and just be enamored with him all the time. So anyway, I have thanked him multiple times years later. We're still friends, platonic friends, that anyone else would have just cut it off there and then, would have, ghosted me and said, look, you're a great guy. We were, momentum participants together at one stage, but I don't want it. I don't want this to go any further. It's been great, but that's it. So he let me sort of unburden myself. Other people I've since found out have thought that maybe that was the wrong tactic or decision, in terms of he was too soft on me. In terms of like allowing me to, I guess, make a fool of myself, like to always be kind of wanting to call him, to, when I say give him gifts, like even just treating him for lunch, or like, hey, do you want lunch today? I'll shout you lunch. You want to go to a movie? I'll shout you movie ticket. Wanting to pay everything. When I say everything, just stuff, when you do with your friends, you have that one friend that, whatever reason, wants to pay for everything, or for everyone, or for just one person, and I wanted to be that person every single time. And he's like, yeah, yeah, kind of just as an excuse to to be with to be in his company again, whether it be just to have lunch somewhere, or coffee, or a movie, or just at times I would just have chats with him while he did his laundry at his place. He did actually find that comforting at times. He did tell me later, since, where he misses the days when I would just, when we had more time, our lives change, and I could just hang out at his place. He used to live with like share houses scenarios, with housemates. Yeah, it's not the case now, and not the case. I've never lived with housemates, but yeah, he would just let me. He said, Ivan, I've got like housework to do. If you want to come over, I do need to get that done. But if you just want to have a chat while I do that, yeah, and I did that. So yeah, I think in my experience, you wouldn't normally do that unless you felt you had some sort of connection, or you wanted a connection with that person, to just spend all of your spare time in their presence. Anyway, so that's where that comes from. So I would have mentioned Frank a lot of times, especially to my mum, about, Frank, I'm just saying, you're at Frank's place, and I didn't give any details about, that we met at the VSC, not from memory anyway. So I just said, yeah, he's a friend. Naturally, she might have asked, how do you know Frank? Anyway, it's all a bit of a blur now. But yeah, so she said, you could take your friend Frank. And I was quite surprised at that remark. Like, out of all the friends, I wouldn't have had as many friends as I do now. I mean, I have only so you can count the number of close friends on one hand. And it probably was pretty much the same situation then. But of all the friends for her to suggest, I was really surprised that she mentioned Frank. She could have mentioned anyone else. Or maybe no one at all. So I don't really remember what I said to that. I just took it in. Maybe I didn't say anything at all. But then, not to say she was teasing me, but I felt, my sense of humor, I do feel, I've got it from both my parents. They're both funny, and I say funny, not funny in the head. They're both humorous people and good senses of humor. So one time I was just, chatting with my mum in the kitchen. She was at the kitchen table eating, and I said along the lines of, this would have been again after she brought up, why don't you go to this dollar extra offer to get Frank to go with you to Queensland, and after the VAC experience and all that kind of stuff. As time went forward, I said something along the lines of, "Oh, actually, Mum, Frank and I actually more than friends, we're lovers," or something. I said he's my boyfriend. And I do remember, maybe not completely literally, but she did kind of like, kind of not choke, but kind of, and not spat out her food, but just like, kind of like, what did you just say? And then before she could even, maybe say anything back other than that or question me, I just said, no, I'm joking. He's just a friend. He's just a friend. So, and that's true. He was and is just a friend, a platonic friend. We've never been in a relationship. So I was a tease, but I was telling the truth when I answered her that he is just a friend. So, and here and there I have mentioned, whether in my own comments, in my own comment section, my mother passed away in 2008, and I did choose not to tell her. Many of you from this story would gather that she worked it out. She didn't press me further on it. But yeah, it is a regret. I do wish I was brave enough to tell her. I was more concerned about how my father would have reacted, and after she passed away, that came out, and maybe a couple of years after she passed away, and I won't go into a granular detail about how my dad reacted, but it was, well, I can only imagine the opposite of how. I mean, this is speculation because I never discussed it with my mother, but my gut instinct is thinking my mum would have, maybe if she wasn't fully accepting it, she would have taken it in a more, I don't know, how would you put it? Just a more accepting way, or even if it was just tolerating, a gentle way. I'm not saying my dad got violent with me or anything, and he allowed me to continue to stay to live with him and my younger brother since my mother passed away. I was expecting, I'm happy to share what I was expecting his reaction to be, but it wasn't. So one of the things I was expecting him to say quite immediately is to say, well, you're an adult, you're earning, you have got a job, a full-time job, have your gay lifestyle out of here. I don't want this happen. I don't want you under my roof with you having this gay lifestyle that you've embraced. So that wasn't the case. I didn't bring guys over. I did comply. He said, I don't want you, taking friends, gay friends, or like in your relationship over to the house, or you sleeping over with them under my roof. That's fair enough. It's his rules. It's his house. I didn't do that, but I was expecting him to say, move out. I don't want you here. Now that you've identified yourself as you are, I don't want that being here in my house, or you being in my house in that way. So with that identity. So I'm probably thinking why I've decided to tell this now. I've had my channel now since October 2022. So as I'm saying this, it's now the 23rd of March 2026. I just watched the latest episode of The Ball. I'll put the link in the comments if you haven't heard of that. It's an animated series showing this topic. So set in high school, where one boy is attracted to another, and the ups and downs and the trials and tribulations of their friendship / relationship. In a high school setting, you can imagine all the ramifications of that and all the drama and the storylines that can evolve from that. So I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head what number episode they're up to, 12 maybe, but I just watched that just before I made this video, and it just as it's designed to hopefully have that impact of not in a detrimental way, of course, but have that emotional impact as you watch it. Obviously, if you're not interested in that, you wouldn't be clicking onto it, but if you're interested in that sort of storyline and that setting in an animated setting, you'd watch it. And I just it made me realize that there was a reason why I was a late bloomer, as I call myself, that in the times when I felt asexual had a purpose for me that I think I wouldn't have coped if I had more of an inclination of my sexual identity if it happened during my high school years, or primary or high school years, I think I would have not had a mental breakdown. Sorry, I'm laughing. I don't think I would have had a mental breakdown, but or a meltdown in any way. But I would have been much more afraid and stressed and anxious, and yeah, it would have been a very pleasant experience. So yeah, and what's the other kind of saying? If is it a saying where things happen for a reason? That I was meant to, yeah, sort of come to terms with my sexuality much later for me in my life when I was 30 and 30 plus. So yeah, so to watch and despite being an animated form, the story is still very relatable. You see the characters, yeah, they're in high school and dealing with, yeah, peer pressure and reaction and relationships with other friends and family, and yeah, it's yeah, they're not long episodes. I haven't tried to make animation myself, but you know how much work can go into it, even with all the computer assistance you can get these days, AI perhaps. It's still a lot of work to put the storyline together, storyboarding, and you know, getting the characters and giving them meaning, all that. So yeah, it's I pretty much mentioned in a not as long as this video, but in the comment to their latest episode, I did mention about how, yeah, I was grateful that I didn't have to deal with that like the characters in the series during my high school years. I am glad it happened later. That for me, when my mind was much more, or I felt was more mature or caught up with myself. You know, they talk about your physical age and your emotional age. Definitely, I emotionally, I was much younger in years than my physical age or physicality at that point. Anyway, so there you go. So yeah, it isn't as bad as once you do. Sorry, like I did come out first. Oh, that's just one more thing I'll mention is that I did come out to pretty much everyone else but my parents. It's probably relatable. And one of the things, yeah, I'm willing to share is my dad was hurt by the fact that I didn't tell them first. I don't know. I don't think he really appreciates how difficult that decision would have been if I had have gone down that way. But of course, for me, it was much more easier and they still mean the world to me. Of course, wasn't it? They meant less to me, but for me, it's much easier coming out to my friends, my non-work friends, and my work colleagues, or any courses that I've done over the years, fellow classmates. Yeah, much easier than telling my parents. I even told a handful of my relatives, my extended relatives, those in America or in Europe or even in Australia. It was much easier to tell them than my parents. And whether they did, sort of hint towards me, it's completely up to them. Kind of sort of was unspoken that I just assumed they wouldn't sort of blab, so to speak, to, hey, guess what Ivan just told me. But yeah, so yeah, my dad was hurt that or maybe didn't quite understand why I chose to leave them in the dark. Essentially, I didn't choose to tell them, and I was prepared. My father's still alive and well, but I was, if things didn't work out like this, I was, sorry, get the giggles. I would have allowed him to go to his grave without telling him, or without him knowing. So I'm glad that's not the case with him, but I wish I had done so with my mum. I think it would have been quite a different reaction and ongoing relationship there, but we'll never know now. Yeah, so there you go. So The Ball is the series. I will put the link to. It's one of many animations, or not even animations. There's countless numbers of gay themed content or aimed at the LGBTI plus Q plus community out there. So The Ball is just one. Yeah, one of them. So one of the latest ones. There you go. I'm out of breath. So, gosh, how long have I talked for? Wow, almost 40 minutes. I think that's enough. I appreciate if you've watched this till the end, and if it meant something to you, or you know someone who might be going through the same thing if they're around the same age as me. So you've calculated correctly. So being born in 1970, I will be 56 this year. So yeah, middle age. I remember back in my day, we didn't talk about this stuff. Yeah, thank you for listening and watching if you've watched till the end. And yeah, until my next video, be well.